Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I am Deepika Mehto. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacts with thousands of Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra beneficiaries via video conferencing. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses the second edition of Infinity Forum, says India is in a strong position to give leadership to the Global South, quoting Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. US vetoes United Nations ceasefire bid put forward by the UAE for humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. UK abstained while 13 of the Council's 15 members voted in favour. An International Olympic Committee allows Belarusians to participate at Paris Olympics as neutrals. However, athletics maintains ban. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with the beneficiaries of Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra via video conferencing on Saturday. Prime Minister also addressed the gathering on the occasion, hailing the initiative in motion of making India a developed country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra focuses on saturating government benefits, making sure they reach the citizens across the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the occasion also hailed Bharatiya Janata Party's hat-trick of victories in the assembly polls in the states of Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh. He said that the massive victory was the evidence of people's trust on the government.
देश में हाल में हुए विधानसभा चुनावों के परिणामों की आज भी बहुत चर्चा हो रही है। इन चुनाव नतीजों ने ये साफ कर दिया है कि मोदी की गारंटी में ही दम है। मैं सभी मतदाताओं का आभारी हूं जिन्होंने मोदी की गारंटी पर इतना भरोसा किया। लेकिन साथियों, सवाल ये भी है कि जो हमारे विरोध में खड़े हैं उन पर देश को भरोसा क्यों नहीं है। दरअसल कुछ राजनीतिक दलों को ये सीधी बात समझ नहीं आ रही है कि झूठी घोषणाएं करके वो कुछ हासिल नहीं कर पाएंगे। चुनाव सोशल मीडिया पर नहीं, जनता के बीच जाकर जीतना होता है। चुनाव जीतने से पहले जनता का दिल जीतना आवश्यक होता है। जनता के विवेक को कम आंकना ठीक नहीं है। अगर कुछ विपक्षी दलों ने राजनीतिक स्वार्थ के बजाय सेवा भाव को ही अपना काम समझा होता तो देश की बहुत बड़ी आबादी अभाव में, मुसीबतों में, तकलीफों में न रहती।
Furthermore, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also hailed about women's active participation in Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra. He said that the government has made 4 crore Pakka houses for the poor and 70% beneficiaries are women.
विकसित भारत संकल्प यात्रा चल रही है। इसमें भी बहुत बड़ी संख्या में हमारी नारी शक्ति ही शामिल हो रही है। हमारी माताएं बहनें जुड़ रही हैं। मोदी की गारंटी की गाड़ी के साथ फोटो खिंचाने की भी उनमें होड़ मची है। आप देखिए, गरीबों के जो 4 करोड़ से अधिक घर बने हैं ना, कोई कल्पना कर सकता है हमारे देश में 4 करोड़ घर इतने कम समय में गरीबों को मिले। और सबसे मेरी खुशी तो इसमें है कि 4 करोड़ घर मिले ना, उसमें 70% लाभार्थी महिलाएं हैं। मतलब कि अगर किसी गांव में 10 घर बने हैं तो उसमें से 7 पक्के घर माताओं के नाम पर रजिस्टर हो गए हैं।
India's Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur addressed the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra introduced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday. The minister expressed his gratitude to Prime Minister Modi for making India's economy as world's 5th largest economy.
नेतृत्व की क्षमता के उसको बढ़ाने का काम उसके माध्यम से किया जा रहा है और आपने जो संकल्प दिलाया है वो संकल्प सब लोग ले रहे हैं विकसित भारत बनाने का। आपने पिछले 9 वर्षों में भारत को 10वें नंबर की अर्थव्यवस्था से दुनिया की 5वीं सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बना दिया है, जिसके लिए हम आपके आभारी हैं। अब आपने कहा कि अगले 5 वर्षों में तीसरी सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बनेंगे, उसके लिए हम सब अपना योगदान देने के लिए तैयार हैं। आपने 10 लाख लोगों को सरकारी क्षेत्र में रोजगार देने की बात कही थी, हम आपके आभारी हैं। 8 लाख से ज्यादा लोगों को आपने रोजगार दे दिया है और अगले 3 महीनों में 10 लाख का ये आंकड़ा भी पूरा हो जाएगा। आपका बहुत बहुत आभार माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी।
Indian Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas and Housing and Urban Affairs Hardeep Singh Puri interacted with the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra beneficiaries and also of Ujjwala scheme who expressed their common experience of saving time and hard work after getting the Ujjwala gas connection.
The idea is to take the work of the 9 years of the Modi government to the people and to prepare for the coming years so that when we become a Viksit country or a developed country by 2047, Honorable Prime Minister said 2047, but as a member of his team I can tell you, we are already the 5th largest economy, we will be 3rd largest, and then the GDP will go up. Education, health, all these are sectors which are doing well, but the most important thing is the benefits of development are reaching the people. That is the most important thing.
Indian Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal joins the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. While attending the occasion, Indian Minister Piyush Goyal emphasized on how the initiative of Indian government will help providing facilities to all the needy through Indian Prime Minister Modi's guaranteed vehicle. Now, the district-level program of Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra, Prime Minister's Dialogue Program, organized at Swami Kesavanand Agricultural University in Rajasthan. On this occasion, Indian Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal, District Collector Bhagwati Prasad Kalal, farmers and many officials were present. Beneficiaries of various schemes of the central government shared their experiences during the program. Various Ministry of Union government played important role in the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra program. Now, the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra today reached Kopi village located in Maharajganj district of Uttar Pradesh. Union Minister of State for Finance Pankaj Chaudhary was also present on the occasion. During the program, certificates were handed over to the beneficiaries of various public welfare schemes. India's Prime Minister today virtually addressed the 2nd edition of Infinity Forum. The Thought Leadership Forum focuses on how technology and innovation can be leveraged by fintech sector for inclusive growth. Speaking at the forum, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reiterated about India's strong position in Global South. He said that there is a better environment for investment in India.
इसी साल मार्च में ऑस्ट्रेलिया के पीएम ने कहा था कि भारत ग्लोबल साउथ को लीडरशिप देने के लिए मजबूत स्थिति में है। कुछ महीने पहले वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम ने भी कहा है कि भारत में रेट टेपिज्म कम हुआ है, निवेश का बेहतर माहौल बना है। आज पूरी दुनिया भारत से उम्मीदें लगाए हुए है। और ये ऐसे ही नहीं हुआ है, ये भारत की मजबूत होती अर्थव्यवस्था और पिछले 10 वर्षों में किए गए ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव रिफॉर्म्स का रिफ्लेक्शन है।
During his address at the Infinity Forum, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also talked about turning Gujarat International Finance Tech City into a global hub of financial and technology services.
गिफ्ट IFSCA को ट्रेडिशनल फाइनेंस और वेंचर से आगे ले जाना चाहती है। हम गिफ्ट सिटी को न्यू एज ग्लोबल फाइनेंशियल एंड टेक्नोलॉजी सर्विसेज का ग्लोबल नर्व सेंटर बनाना चाहते हैं। मुझे विश्वास है गिफ्ट सिटी के प्रोडक्ट्स और सर्विसेज विश्व के सामने खड़ी चुनौतियों का समाधान करने में मदद करेंगे।
Furthermore, Prime Minister Modi also hailed the Indian fintech markets. He said that India is one of the fastest growing fintech markets in the world today.
भारत आज विश्व के फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग फिनटेक मार्केट में से एक है। फिनटेक में भारत की ताकत गिफ्ट IFSC के विजन से जुड़ी है, जिसके कारण ये स्थान फिनटेक का एक उभरता हुआ केंद्र बन रहा है। 2022 में IFSC ने फिनटेक के लिए एक प्रोग्रेसिव रेगुलेटरी फ्रेमवर्क जारी किया था। इनोवेशन और एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप को बढ़ावा देने के लिए IFSC में एक फिनटेक इनिशिएटिव स्कीम भी है, जो इंडियन और फॉरेन फिनटेक्स को ग्रांट देता है। गिफ्ट सिटी में दुनिया के लिए ग्लोबल फिनटेक वर्ल्ड का गेटवे और फिनटेक लेबोरेटरी बनने की क्षमता है।
India's Vice President Jagdeep Thankar inaugurated the Sarthak Global Resource Centre in Gurugram on Saturday. The centre, dedicated to the education and skill development of persons with disabilities, was launched during the 10th National Conference on Disability. During the event, the Vice President said that a perception of people with disabilities has constrained their accomplishments.
मानते थे पहले कि महिलाओं को कुछ काम नहीं दिए जा सकते, वो उसके योग्य नहीं है। That ceiling has been broken. Our girls are combat pilots. Combat pilots. They are in the front line of defense. Every walk of life. Same is true of people whom we call disabled. They are not disabled. We take them to be disabled.
Indian Minister of External Affairs Dr. S. Jaishankar interacted with Indian students and young professionals in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. While interacting with young Indian students and professionals, the minister highlighted the vast strides India has taken over the past decade.
We are today rolling out the fastest rollout of 5G technology is happening in India, but it is Indian 5G stack. So when you look at the CoWIN or the Covaxin, when you look at the 5G, when you look at the Chandrayaan, this is also Viksit Bharat in the making. So I feel today that it's important young people, especially those, many of you live and study abroad, your influence is not just limited to your immediate group or family. You meet others, you shape the thinking of India, when they hear from you in a very natural way what is happening in India. It is something which definitely gives them in a very sincere way, in a very natural way, a sense of really how is India progressing. And this message of how is India progressing is something which is very important to communicate to the world.
In a significant milestone for health insurance coverage in India, the Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana has facilitated more than 59 million hospitalizations at a cost of over 74,000 crore rupees since the year 2018. According to the National Health Authority, general medicine has emerged as the most utilized specialty, catering to over 11 million patients. The top three specialties, including infectious diseases, general surgery and medical oncology, account for over 15,000 crore rupees. The scheme has been critical in providing medical support to millions across the nation. We are going for a short break, but still to come on DD India News Hour. Guatemala's newly elected president rejects a legal move by the prosecution to invalidate his election victory. Europe reaches provisional deal on landmark European Union rules governing the use of artificial intelligence. An iconic Hollywood sign in Los Angeles turns 100 years old.
Namaskar, welcome back to Media Scan, your weekend dose of headlines, controversies and perspectives.
Perhaps Rajiv Gandhi realized that it was not easy to work with a person like Pranab Mukherjee, who had a very strong mind of his own, backed with a formidable combination of knowledge, experience and expertise. Your own vice president had shown publicly such disdain for your own government's decision, his own government's decision. Why should people vote for you again? Whether that true Congress ideology of inclusiveness, of tolerance of divergence of opinion, whether that divergence of opinion is being followed by the adherents of today's, the leaders and the workers of today's Congress party.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Deepika. Now, the International Solar Alliance on Friday announced a significant milestone with the initiation of the first pilot project under its global solar facility. Now, this is in collaboration with a leading solar power company called Nuru in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The project aims to develop and construct 15 megawatts of solar metro grid capacity across 3 provinces in the eastern Congo. The United States on Friday vetoed a proposed United Nations Security Council demand for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in the conflict between Israel and terrorist group Hamas in Gaza. 4 earlier drafts presented since the war broke out were rejected by the Security Council. Now, 13 other members voted in favor of a brief draft resolution put forward by the UAE, while Britain abstained. The US had offered substantial amendments to the draft, including a condemnation of the 7th of October Hamas terrorist attacks that killed 1,200 Israeli people and in which 240 people were taken hostage. Jody Jacobs reports from New York.
13 UN Security Council members voted yes, the United Kingdom abstained and the United States vetoed the vote. The United Arab Emirates, who tabled the resolution, which was co-sponsored by more than 90 UN member states, says it's extremely disappointed and that it will redouble its efforts to call for a ceasefire. The US Deputy Ambassador to the UN, Robert Wood, says while it supports durable peace, it cannot support calls for an immediate ceasefire. This, he says, because Hamas has no desire for peace or to see a two-state solution. The vote on Friday here in New York comes after Antonio Guterres deployed a rarely used Article 99 of the UN Charter, calling to the attention of the Council any matter which in his opinion may threaten the maintenance of international peace and security. The Palestinian permanent observer Riyad Mansour says this is a sad day and that it will not stop calling for a ceasefire and to stop the killing of Palestinian people. Mansour says millions of Palestinian lives hang in the balance. Every single one of them, he says, is sacred and worth saving. Israel's UN ambassador Gilad Erdan did not address the Security Council after the vote, but in a statement said that a ceasefire will be possible only with the return of all the hostages and the destruction of Hamas. Meanwhile, the Commissioner General of UNRWA, the UN's humanitarian wing in Gaza, has written to the President of the UN General Assembly to inform him that the organization's ability to continue delivering its mandate in Gaza has now become very limited. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has told Council members here in New York that the eyes of the world and the eyes of history are watching, demanding that the international community do everything possible to end the ordeal of the people of Gaza. Jody Jacobs at the United Nations in New York, reporting for DD India.
Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro unveiled on Friday a new map of Venezuela that shows the disputed territory of Essequibo amid growing border tensions between Guyana and the country. Tensions escalated over the weekend when voters in Venezuela rejected the ICJ's jurisdiction and backed the creation of a new Venezuelan state in a referendum. Guyana has questioned the vote's legitimacy, put its armed forces on high alert, and said Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is disregarding ICJ orders about taking no action to change the status quo in Essequibo.
Let's see where on the map we will celebrate tonight. Long live the complete map of Venezuela. Long live the homeland. Long live all the Venezuela.
The newly elected president of Guatemala, Bernardo Arevalo, angrily rejected a legal maneuver by the prosecution to invalidate his election triumph, calling the effort an attempted coup. The US and other Western countries have backed Arevalo, saying the probes are a coordinated effort to undermine him and democracy in Guatemala. Earlier, the Attorney General's office had declared it would attempt to annul the results of the first-round election, citing irregularities in voter registrations as well as data collected the day of the June vote. But the head of Guatemala's top electoral court said it would not hold a repeat of the elections. The European Union Commissioner for Agriculture, who's currently in India, spoke on his ongoing visit and its aim. The Commissioner also expressed his satisfaction after meeting the concerned Indian authorities. Let's take a listen.
Target of this visit is to strengthen to improve our trade relations between European Union and India. And I'm very satisfied after the meeting with Indian representatives of Indian authorities and with representatives of Indian business. I'm accompanied by representatives of the most important sectors of food system from the European Union. They are very important also, the direct contacts between representatives of business from European Union and from India. No, we have huge potential to increase our trade relations.
Europe on Friday reached a provisional deal on landmark European Union rules governing the use of artificial intelligence, including governments' use of AI in biometric surveillance and how to regulate AI systems such as ChatGPT. The two sides are set to hash out details in the coming days that could also change the shape of the final legislation. Here's a report.
With the political agreement, the European Union moves toward becoming the first major world power to enact laws governing artificial intelligence. Friday's deal between European Union countries and European Parliament members came after nearly 15 hours of negotiations that followed an almost 24-hour debate the previous day. The two sides are set to hash out details in the coming days, which could change the shape of the final legislation. The accord requires foundation models such as ChatGPT and general-purpose AI systems, GPAI, to comply with transparency obligations before they are put on the market. These include drawing up technical documentation, complying with EU copyright law, and disseminating detailed summaries about the content used for training. Governments can only use real-time biometric surveillance in public spaces in cases of certain crimes. The agreement bans cognitive behavioral manipulation. Consumers would have the right to launch complaints and receive meaningful explanations while fines for violations. EU chief later in a tweet hailed AI Act as a global first. She said it's a unique legal framework for the development of AI you can trust, and that it will safeguard rights of people and businesses.
A team of British officials is in Delhi for the latest round of talks on a trade deal between India and the United Kingdom. DD India London correspondent Ollie Barrett reports.
The British media is reporting renewed momentum in talks on a multi-million-dollar trade agreement between London and Delhi. The 13th round of talks this is between the two sides. From a British perspective, the government of Rishi Sunak would like to deliver a deal before the next general election, which needs to take place at some point in the next 13 months. It's reported that issues to be discussed in these negotiations include things like lower tariffs for British goods in India, such as cars and whiskey, and faster processing for Indian companies to send workers to the UK. The UK government believes a deal would need to be reached by the end of February, before India's election, and London would paint it as an example of a post-Brexit victory, given that the European Union hasn't been able to reach a free trade deal with India. A spokesperson for the UK's Department of Business and Trade said, going into the talks, the UK and India continue to work towards an ambitious trade deal that works for both countries. Ollie Barrett in London, reporting for DD India.
And now in DD India News Hour, let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Firefighters extinguished a fire that engulfed a hospital ward in Tivoli near Rome. The fire killed at least 3 people, 200 patients were evacuated, and among them 7 children and a pregnant woman were also there. A South Korean court ruling in favor of a group of 16 women who were forced to work in Japanese wartime brothels was confirmed on Saturday by Japan's decision not to appeal the verdict. The South Korean Foreign Ministry statement comes after passage of appeal deadline. It must be filed within 2 weeks after a court's written judgment. Former U.S. President Donald Trump left a New York courtroom after attending his ongoing civil fraud trial as it winds down. The judge overseeing the trial has already ruled that Trump and his adult sons manipulated financial statements to dupe banks and insurers into providing better loan and insurance terms. Trump is expected to testify as the final defense witness on Monday. The Philippines condemned China's illegal and aggressive actions in the disputed South China Sea. The island nation said that China's Coast Guard had fired water cannon at a Philippine Fisheries Bureau vessel conducting a regular resupply mission. And still to come on DD India News Hour, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi emerges as the most popular global world leader with a solid approval rating. Global call for urgent climate action echoes at COP28. Passing out parade held in India's Dehradun, 343 young officers graduated from the Indian Military Academy.
This is a story of Dal Lake of Naya Kashmir.
मैं बड़ी होकर ऑफिसर बनने चाहती हूँ, दूसरी बात मैं पुलिस बननी चाहती हूँ।
बहुत काम आया, उसका टूरिस्ट आया, उसका काम बहुत जलता है। यहाँ पे तो अभी बहुत कुछ बदला है। यहाँ का जो अभी गवर्नमेंट है, उन लोगों ने बहुत कुछ किया यहाँ पे। 2-3 सालों से यहाँ पे बहुत टूरिज्म आ रहा है।
Has the post Article 370 abrogation change, the impact of it also percolated when it comes to the local fishing community?
हर एक यहाँ पे ₹10 कमा रहा है।
यहाँ पर लोग आते हैं घूमने के लिए, फिर वो खरीदारी करते हैं शॉल्स, पेपर मशी, अखरोट लकड़ का, क्योंकि यहाँ भी लोग है ना, रोजी इनकी भी चलती है यहाँ से।
After 38 years, I have seen tremendous change in this place.
हमारा कश्मीर जो है सबसे खूबसूरत डल लेक, शांति है यहाँ पे।
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Deepika. Let's quickly recap the top headlines of the hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacts with thousands of Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra beneficiaries via video conferencing. India's Prime Minister addresses the second edition of Infinity Forum, says India is in a strong position to give leadership to the Global South, quoting Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. An International Olympic Committee allows Russians, Belarusians to participate at Paris Olympics as neutrals. However, athletics maintains ban. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has said that India is the new growth engine of the world, and India's rise from being in the world's top 5 economies to being among the top 3 by the year 2027 will positively impact the world. Now, Singh was speaking at the 96th Annual Conference of FICCI of Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry.
ये सेंचुरी में यदि आप देखें तो लंबे समय तक यूएसए विश्व के ग्रोथ इंजन के रूप में भूमिका निभाता रहा। 21वीं सदी के प्रारंभ के 15-20 सालों का यदि आप आकलन करें तो आप देखेंगे चीन ने भी उसी तर्ज पर एक ग्रोथ इंजन के रूप में काम किया, और अब भारत दुनिया की फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग मेजर इकॉनमी है। तो जाहिर सी बात है कि भारत की ग्रोथ विश्व के अन्य देशों की ग्रोथ पर मेजर पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट डालने की स्थिति में अब आ गई है। भारत इस समय सिर्फ दुनिया की 5th सबसे बड़ी इकॉनमी है, और इतना ही नहीं बल्कि दुनिया की फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग मेजर इकॉनमी भी है भारत हमारा। और भारत आज दुनिया की टॉप 5 इकॉनमीज में शुमार हो चुका है। मॉर्गन स्टैनले फाइनेंशियल फर्म है, आपने सुना होगा, उसका भी यह मानना है कि वह दिन दूर नहीं है, यानी 2027 आते आते हमारा भारत दुनिया की टॉप 3 इकॉनमीज में आकर खड़ा हो जाएगा।
He also cited several data to assert that the Modi government has not just focused on human resources, but also built infrastructure at an unprecedented pace in the past 9 years.
2014 तक जहां भारत के पास 91,000 किलोमीटर तक के नेशनल हाईवेज थे, वहीं आज उनकी संख्या बढ़कर लगभग 1.5 लाख किलोमीटर तक पहुंच गई है। 2014 में भारत के पास जहां पर केवल 74 एयरफोर्स थे, आज उनकी संख्या बढ़कर 149 तक पहुंच गई है। प्रधानमंत्री की गति शक्ति योजना और नेशनल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पाइपलाइन के थ्रू हमने देश के 100 लाख करोड़ तक के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट की प्रॉपर प्लानिंग बनाई हुई है।
According to the latest survey of global approval ratings by the Morning Consult, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has again emerged as the most popular global world leader with a solid approval rating of 76%, which is the highest across the world. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been consistently topping the list over the last few years. Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador secured second position with 66% ratings, and Swiss President Alain Berset holds the third rank with 58% rating. Well, under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, India continues to strengthen its prominence as a global power. Leaders around the world have repeatedly acknowledged India's growing leadership in strategic issues. Here's a report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi can't be intimidated. That is what Russian President Vladimir Putin believes. Putin once again lauded the Prime Minister of India, saying that he cannot be intimidated or forced to take decisions contrary to national interests.
First of all, I want to say that relations between Russia and India are steadily developing in all directions, and the main guarantee is the policy of the Prime Minister Modi. I can't imagine that Modi can be intimidated, threatened, or forced in favor of taking any action or decision against the national interest of India, Indian people. And there is such pressure, I know. By the way, we never even talk about it with him. I just look at what's going on from the outside. And sometimes, to be honest, I am even surprised by his tough stance on the protection of the national interests of the Indian people.
Even before this, the Russian president had praised Indian leadership. Russia commended India's G20 presidency for its extremely productive work with good results achieved during the New Delhi summit in September.
Prime Minister Modi is the boss.
This is not for the first time Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a warm welcome. In fact, wherever he goes, it's all praise for him. Even United States praised India and said Washington will continue to foster partnership with India.
And we do appreciate the partnership that we have with India and other countries in the Indo-Pacific region when it comes to preserving individual nations' sovereignty.
During the meeting of Quad leaders in Tokyo this year, US President Joe Biden praised the popularity of Prime Minister Modi and said that he should get PM Modi's autograph. Joe Biden said, and I quote, "You are causing me a real problem. Next month we have a dinner for you in Washington. Everyone in the whole country wants to come. I have run out of tickets. You think I'm kidding? Ask my team. I'm getting phone calls from people I have never heard before. Everyone from movie star to relatives. You are too popular. I should take your autograph." In June this year, the United States hosted Prime Minister Modi on a state visit. The White House also organized a state dinner in the honor of PM Modi. It was a historic moment when Prime Minister Narendra Modi led 177 countries in performing yoga at the United Nations headquarters in New York on International Yoga Day on June 21 this year. In an unusual gesture, Papua New Guinea Prime Minister James Marape welcomed Prime Minister Modi by touching his feet. India hosted the leaders of the world's most powerful countries during the G20 summit in New Delhi. A major development during this year's G20 summit was the inclusion of the African Union as a member of the multilateral group, which Prime Minister Modi had strongly advocated. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been momentous in representing India's cultural heritage, economic power and growing influence on the world stage. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
The Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure is dedicated to the swift establishment of robust infrastructure to address the imperatives outlined in the Sustainable Development Goals on the sidelines of COP28 meet in Dubai. The Director General of CDRI, Amit Prothi, spoke exclusively to Prasar Bharati Special Correspondent Vinod Kumar on CDRI's role as a multi-stakeholder global partnership that aims to build resilience into infrastructure system. Let's take a listen.
With me today is Mr. Amit Prothi, who is the Director General of CDRI. At COP28, even now, while we have the loss and damage fund, still people are a bit confused about adaptation and mitigation. And your work focuses on adaptation.
Yeah.
Can you please explain what is it?
Sure. So mitigation is trying to reduce carbons in the atmosphere. So because that is what is causing global warming. Adaptation is recognizing that maybe the globe is already warmer, which it is. How is that impacting changing climate patterns such as cyclonic patterns, precipitation patterns, and how do you address the risks that are coming because of that changing climate? So adaptation is adapting to the changing climate.
What work CDRI is doing in accessing these adaptation measures?
We are doing work in India and across the world. We are an international organization headquartered in Delhi. An example of a study we are doing, for example, in Odisha, where we're trying to understand how cyclonic patterns are changing on the coast and how that is impacting the power sector. Your towers, your transmission lines, are they designed for the wind speeds that are changing because of climate change? So that's the kind of work we are doing. We're working across in Fiji, in Dominican Republic, we're starting to do some work in Brazil. So because we are a coalition of international, about 37 countries at this point, we're working across quite a few countries in the world.
Okay, your area of focus has an importance with island countries, small countries.
Yeah.
So can you please explain more about it? Why the focus on these island countries are important?
Yeah, CDRI established an islands program. So we are actually helping now 13 island countries starting to think about how to build coastal resilience, early warning system, etc., to make their infrastructure more resilient to the changes because of climate change.
Are you satisfied with the measures, with global climate finance measures, and what brings you to the COP?
Sure. What we are trying to do is, when we talk about funding, you need projects on the ground that can receive that funding. So what we're trying to do is work with countries to understand on the ground what might be projects that can actually receive these adaptation funding. So we're helping design projects, etc. I'm here because CDRI is trying to bring its what we're doing through our programs to our international audience. We're being invited by member countries to come and speak in panels. So we've actually participated in about 14, 15 panels, and we also launched some very interesting things. I'll just mention one, which is a global database on risk. So first time ever, there is a whole globe, a database for the entire globe that is looking at infrastructure resilience from 6 kinds of hazard. That doesn't exist. It's available on our website. Anybody can access it.
With that, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
The Saudi Green Initiative Forum, a beacon of environmental advocacy, has dominated discussions at the ongoing COP28 summit as the world leaders converge to address the pressing issues of climate change. Third edition of the forum, held under the theme called From Ambition to Action, emphasized on sustainability, energy transition, marine conservation, and unlocking climate finance to foster global climate resilience. The focal point of the Saudi Green Initiative Forum is the innovative SGI Gallery, offering interactive experiences that showcase the diversity of climate action initiatives taking root across Saudi Arabia. A major highlight from the forum is Saudi Arabia's ambitious push for renewable energy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently concluded his visit to the UAE, where he made a pitch for India to host COP33 in the upcoming year 2028. Ambassador of UAE to India exclusively spoke to the India correspondent at COP28. Let's take a listen.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently concluded his visit to UAE where he went for the COP28. Also, he held a bilateral meeting with the leadership of UAE. Obviously, we know that COP28 is underway in UAE, and the presidency is conducting the COP28 successfully. Besides that, also there are a lot of things on the table in terms of climate change, climate action, climate financing, and more. And to talk more on this, we are joined in by the ambassador of UAE to India, and we'll talk more and obviously get to know more on what has the conversation at COP28 been about. So thank you so much for joining us, and we are glad to have you on DD India. First of all, we definitely know that Prime Minister had a visit there, and where he also announced that the COP33 will be held in India in 2028. What do you have to say about it? We'll start with that.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to host it, and I'm sure if you do, it will be a successful one, just like we have done with the G20. And obviously I wish India all the best. We have had nothing but support from India during our COP28 presidency, and when the time comes, and from now until then as well, India can count on the UAE support.
What do we have to say about in terms of the meetings that are going on in COP28? How do you assess it by now? What has the reactions been, especially in terms of climate financing?
Well, they have been fruitful and productive. So far, there is an amount of $57 billion that have come forward in terms of commitments and pledges. The loss and damage fund has been operationalized with $700 million, with the UAE committing $100 million to the fund. 130 countries have signed on the Food and Agriculture Declaration. 120 countries plus have signed on to the Climate Health Declaration. India has signed on the Climate Finance Declaration as one of 13 countries who have done so. So all in all, we have had quite significant progress in COP28, and I'm sure that this momentum will continue.
And when we are looking at, putting the voice of Global South in COP28, because these are the developing countries, and India has also made sure that its priorities under the G20 and its G20 presidency, which just concluded, it was also that bringing the voice of Global South on the table.
This is also why we have had meetings with the G20 Sherpa. We made sure that we are fully committed to the tangible outcomes that have come out of the G20, and that those can be taken forward in the COP28 presidency. Not only that, but if you look at COP28, you would see that this is one of the most inclusive COPs that have ever been hosted, and one of the highest youth participations. There have been commitments not only from countries, but also from companies.
And when we actually look at the bilateral relationship between India and UAE, we know that high-level visits have caught up momentum, and we also do see that there was a bilateral meeting between UAE leadership and Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
There is a special bond and a very good friendship between the two leaders. Obviously, COP28 was and is the most important topic at the moment that was discussed between them. But they also discussed other ways and other fields through which they could advance the bilateral relationship between the two countries, whether it's trade, economic, or any other sector.
We know that Vibrant Gujarat, the Global Summit, the Investors Summit is round the corner, and obviously UAE has a big part to play.
UAE is a partner of Vibrant Gujarat. I know that I'll be in Vibrant Gujarat, and I know that whenever Vibrant Gujarat takes place, the UAE participates at the highest and most senior level possible, and you could always count on that. Gujarat is our #1 trading partner among all Indian states, and I believe this is something that will continue to be the case because of the flow of investments from the UAE into Gujarat in the various sectors. Food security is one of them through the Food Parks project under the ITU2 umbrella. There is also managing ports and handling cargo in those ports.
So here we had the ambassador of UAE to India speak to us on diverse issues. Obviously COP28, because UAE is the presidency. We also spoke about the Vibrant Gujarat Summit that's obviously round the corner and will be held in January next year. Besides that, also the momentum that is being constantly built up with high-level visits from UAE to India and India to UAE. With camera person Kumar Datta and my colleague Sunny Kalra, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from New Delhi.
Now on Saturday, 343 young officers graduated from the Indian Military Academy to join the armed forces for national service. 29 cadets from friendly nations also successfully completed their training. The passing out parade held in the Indian city of Dehradun was reviewed by Sri Lanka's Chief of Defence Staff, General Dr. Shavendra Silva. Since its establishment, the IMA has seen 65,234 domestic and international cadets pass out. And it's now time to take a short break on DD India News Hour, but still to come. Indian women all set to face England at T20I at Mumbai's Wankhede Stadium today. And IOC clears Russian athletes to compete in Paris Olympics as neutrals. Approval is limited to individual spots. And India to square off with Canada today at Junior Men's Hockey World Cup in Malaysia. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Deepika, and it's now time to get you all the latest sporting action. Well, India will take on England in the second T20 International at Wankhede Stadium today. England were too good for India in the first T20 as they defeated them by 38 runs. India were only able to score 159 runs in their chase of 198. Not once has India beaten England in a bilateral T20I series so far. India's fielding was way below par, and there seems a need to improve the team's fielding given the next T20 World Cup, which is not so far. Now, England appears to be a well-rounded unit with almost all the top players having hit the top gear right from the word to go. India will have to hope for Harmanpreet Kaur and Smriti Mandhana to fire with the willow to support an inexperienced spin pack. The International Olympic Committee has given the green light to the participation of Russian and Belarusian athletes in the Paris Olympics as neutrals. They will only be allowed to compete in individual sports, and no teams for the two countries will be allowed to participate in Paris Olympics. The IOC has also said that no state or government official from Russia or Belarus will be invited to or accredited for the upcoming Olympics, but argued that the athletes should not be held accountable for the action of their governments.
Russian and Belarusian athletes who qualify in their sport for the Paris 2024 Olympics can take part as neutrals without flags, emblems or anthems at the event next year, the International Olympic Committee said on Friday. The athletes had initially been banned from competing internationally following Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year, but have since been gradually allowed back as neutral athletes in most sports. The Olympic body said in a statement, the executive board of the IOC has decided that individual neutral athletes who have qualified through existing qualification systems of the international federations on the field of play will be declared eligible to compete at the Olympic Games Paris 2024 in accordance with the conditions outlined below. Individual neutral athletes are athletes with Russian or Belarusian passport.
First of all, what is maybe most important is has changed that participation of athletes with Russian and Belarusian passports in competitions and in international competitions works.
Athletics, the game's biggest sport, is unlikely to open the door for them to return to competition, however, after banning them following the invasion and sticking to it on Friday.
No, you may well see some neutral athletes from Russia and Belarus in Paris. They just won't be in athletics. And the position that our sport took and has consistently taken is unchanged. So there's frankly, there's really not much. There's nothing more I can really add to that other than that it's a settled position. It's a position the council took. It's one that's endorsed by the executive board, and on two separate global occasions has been endorsed almost unanimously by the athletics family.
Ukraine's foreign minister condemned what he said was shameful IOC decision, while Russia's sports minister called the conditions set by the IOC for Russian athletes' participation at the Olympics discriminatory. The neutral athletes from Russia and Belarus will only compete in individual sports, and no teams for the two countries will be allowed to participate in Paris. The IOC also said athletes who actively support the war in Ukraine will not be eligible, while any support personnel who do so will not be allowed to enter. Out of 4,600 athletes qualified for the Paris Games so far, 8 were Russians and 3 were Belarusians. More than 60 Ukrainian athletes had qualified. A total of 11,000 athletes will take part at the Games next year.
Now to discuss more on this, I'm joined by Narayan Singh from Newsroom. Narayan, good evening. Thank you so much. Now, when we take a look at this development, is it a step forward in the careers of the athletes because they've been preparing? They've been banned from participating in team events, but they are allowed to participate in individuals at least.
Deepika, if we talk about the decision of the IOC they had taken, actually they try to maintain a striking balance and try to make happy every stakeholder. Right now the position is that 4,600 athletes have qualified worldwide for the coveted Paris Games. But if we take a look at the numbers of the Russian and the Belarusian athletes, there are only 8 Russian athletes and 3 Belarusian athletes. And last time, if we take a look, more than 330 Russian athletes participated in the Tokyo Olympics. But by sending only few number of Russian and the Belarusian athletes, it doesn't look for the, if you take a Russians view, it is not satisfactory for them because the kind of the squad they have, we have seen actually they are playing under the neutral flags. There will be no emblem, there will be no anthem. But in that context, they try to make happy even their own body, IOC, because it is, if you take a look at the motto of the IOC, the sports body, world sports body, that it says the sports for all. In that context, they allowed few Russian players and few Belarusian players. And if you take a look in that concept, by allowing only few players, they are making happy others also. And if you talk about the World Athletic Council, their chief, Sebastian Coe, has adamantly said that they will not allow any Russian players in track and field event. For them, it is banned. So again and again, we have seen that in the March that the world body, the IOC, has outrightly the ban that was outright banned. They have partially removed it, and slowly under the neutral flag, they are allowed to participate. And we can see in a other sense, it's as Russian sports minister said that it's they are saying that's a discriminatory decision against them by allowing just few number of players. There are no Russian teams can play, but it's not only about the IOC, because the many other stakeholders, there is a different players to play a role in this. So we are hoping that the things are going as the things will progress. If the Russian other athletes under the neutral flag can qualify, we can see the numbers may increase in coming times.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Narayan, for joining us. Now, moving on, now let's get you a quick update on hockey. Indian men's hockey team are all set to face Canada in the ongoing Junior Men's Hockey World Cup in Malaysia. Now, with both the teams being the member of Pool C, Team India will have to look forward and work hard to clinch this victory. India had lost to Spain earlier in the last match that took place on Thursday, and on the other hand scored a victory by 4-2 scoreline against Korea in an earlier match. Now the top 2 teams from each pool will advance to the quarterfinal rounds, while the bottom 2 in each pool will play for ranking place from 9 to 16. An artistic intervention at COP28, drawing the connection between the combustion of fossil fuels and the forest fires around the world that they cause by activist network demonstration by indigenous people. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Deepika Mehto, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.